Welcome, everyone, to Raven's channel, where we dedicate ourselves to recounting the mysterious tales of charms, love spells, and strange spiritual experiences. Before we get started, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Raven's YouTube channel so you don't miss out on the latest ghost story videos. And now, let's listen to today's story together. This story was sent in by a guy. He calls himself a teacher because he apprenticed in the low band tradition, but specifically the Buddhist low band. He's been studying this path for 15 years. Throughout that time, he's helped people many times, using the magic he learned to help those affected by black magic. However, as of now, he no longer helps people and focuses on his own work, while also practicing magic for himself to preserve the legacy from his master. The story begins in 2006, when he had a relationship that lasted 4 years. In 2010, this relationship ended. Also in that year, he heard that his ex-girlfriend, after breaking up with him, had started seeing someone else. He didn't know if they were happy or not, if there were any conflicts, but suddenly he received news from his ex-girlfriend's family and friends that she had just passed away from a painful reason, drinking herbicide. He was heartbroken. There must have been a reason, but now it was useless to find out. The person was already gone. His mission was to go to his girlfriend's hometown to see her off on her final journey. Her house was all the way in Ninh Thuan. This was the first time after 4 years of being together that he had come to her house, and it was also the last time. The story begins at the funeral. Because he lived in Saigon, and the funeral was all the way in Ninh Thuan, and the entombment was tomorrow, he had to go quickly. He couldn't delay, so he bought a plane ticket from Saigon to Cam Ranh Airport in Con Hoa. From there, he had to take a shortcut, some kind of trail, guided by the locals. After driving for more than 2 hours on a forest road, he arrived at a market gate. Someone he knew from his ex-girlfriend's family told him to just drive to the gate of Hoa Sun Market, and relatives would come to pick him up. Sure enough, when he arrived at the gate of Hoa Sun Market in Ninh Thuan, someone let him in. He said the scene was incredibly sad. They had only broken up recently, it wasn't like it had been 10 or 20 years. The feelings were still there, but the person he had shared a bed with for 4 years was lying in a coffin. Who would have expected this? It was very painful. He continued, late at night, when no one was standing around the funeral, everyone was resting. He was the only one walking in the house, around the coffin, to see his girlfriend one last time. But he couldn't see her, because they had already completed the uncoffining and closed the coffin. The burial would be early the next morning. As he stood there, circling the coffin, there was a window in the front of the house. For some reason, as he was feeling sad, missing her, reminiscing about the happy memories of the two of them, he felt a wind blowing very deliberately, as if trying to blow into him to let him know that someone was standing outside, blowing in. He immediately felt the negative energy, because at this point he had studied magic, knew spells, and could feel spiritual things. But he had never seen a spirit before. He could only feel it. This air, according to what he learned from his master, was not normal negative energy but Chuan Kai, which is the residual energy of someone who has just died a sudden and unjust death. There must be a reason why this person drank herbicide and committed suicide, rather than dying a natural death. That's why there was Chuan Kai, there was resentment. In that dense air, he heard a hee-hee laugh in his ear, very clearly. He recognized it as his girlfriend's laugh, there was no mistaking it. It was her. He turned around and immediately saw a face pressed close to his. The two of them stood next to the coffin, as if to show him, "Yeah, I'm back to see you." Then the figure darted through the house next door and disappeared. Having studied magic and knowing spells, he knew, but this was the first time he had clearly seen a spirit, and it was the spirit of his ex-girlfriend. Feeling spiritual things is one thing, but this person also had an emotional connection with him. He knew her, he was so familiar with her, so when she appeared, he felt it very strongly. This was his girlfriend, no one else. According to the schedule, he stayed at the house that night, just feeling sad and waiting for the day to pass. The next morning, the family took the coffin to a plot of land behind the house for burial, as is customary. When everything was finished, he returned to Saigon and started work. But he had a hard time concentrating, because he was both sad and missed her, and he couldn't forget. It would probably take a long time for him to forget this. Because of this, every night when he slept, he saw his girlfriend come back. It wasn't a dream or anything, but he saw her appear right at his bed. He could feel that air very clearly, that residual energy, that Chuan Kai, following him from Ninh Thuan, following the road he drove, even following the plane. Back in Saigon, she was still attached, still lurking around him. He saw her following him all the time. When he slept, she sat next to him, then entered his dreams. Actually, when you fall asleep, everyone is the same, he couldn't intervene. He often saw the two of them playing, joking, going to places they had been to when they were together. Exactly the same. When he woke up, he knew he had just gone out, just relived memories. But the feeling was so real, not a dream or anything. So he confirmed that his ex-girlfriend was haunting him. Or was it because he still loved her too much, or she still loved him? That's why he told this story to his master. He said, "Master, my ex-girlfriend has passed away. I want my ex-girlfriend to be reincarnated, but she keeps following me, and that's not good, but I still love her so much, I don't know what to do. Do you have a solution?" After listening to him, his master offered a solution. "Well, now you listen to me, I'll tell you a way. You let the spirit of your ex-girlfriend become your mbin. Then she will follow you forever, she will always be by your side, you will also be by her side, and the important thing is that you can control her whenever you want. She will be willing to harm anyone or do anything for you. Whether dead or alive, she still has to do it for you, because then she will no longer be a normal spirit, she will be your mbin, you will have trained her." He was horrified. That won't work. Once you train your girlfriend to become an mbin, then she is no longer your girlfriend, she is a ghost, a demon, an mbin, it's different. No, that's not right, it's too bad, you have to let her go. But he didn't want to disobey his master, so he considered it an idea for reference only. Whether he did it or not was up to him. And once he didn't do it according to his master's wishes, he had to do it another way, he had to be quiet, he couldn't tell his master. But what was the other way? He didn't know yet. He was thinking about it. Well, go home first. He went home, thinking about it, not knowing what to do. The more he thought about it, the more he felt his ex-girlfriend clinging to him. Every time she was by his side, in his dreams, it was like he was reliving the past of the two of them. But that wasn't good. It wasn't good for her or for him. Negative energy following him would definitely lower his yang energy. He practiced Taoism, he knew. So what to do now? He knew a little bit. He wanted to take the worship picture of his girlfriend, develop a picture, and send it to the temple to be worshipped. Because this temple was also where the photos of his paternal and maternal grandparents were worshipped. He thought, when he brought his girlfriend here, she would definitely be blessed by his ancestors and the Buddhas and gods in the temple, helping his ex-girlfriend's soul to be reincarnated quickly. As for her house, how her parents wanted to worship her was their business. Now that his mind had started, he would worship her at his own temple. Then he did what he wanted. He sent her to the temple, and it was accepted. As a result, every week when he was free from work, he would visit this temple to listen to scriptures, clean up, and take care of the worship area of his ex-girlfriend. Sometimes he was too tired, sleepy, and fell asleep right there. He remembered one evening, he sat there thinking and fell asleep. He heard the monks in the temple chanting a sutra, chanting the Amitabha Sutra, which mentioned going to the Pure Land, where the dead would go, what life they would be reborn into. He really wanted to learn about this. After waking up, he started asking the monks there. He asked, "Master, I really want to know, when a person is living normally and wants to take their own life, frankly speaking, commits suicide, they no longer want to live, so after they do those foolish things, they die, where will they go?" The monks explained according to Buddhist teachings. Generally, this body is born from parents, and we have a responsibility to protect it and keep it healthy. No matter what, we must not destroy ourselves. Now that we are living well, we deliberately let our body die, then we have violated the ethical principles of heaven. Therefore, once we do this, it is very difficult for us to be reborn. We die painfully, we have sinned against our parents, ourselves, and the heavens and earth. That's basically it. If you want to learn more, you can read the scriptures and learn about Buddhist teachings. Oh, really? After listening, he began to be afraid. He woke up immediately. Is that so? So my girlfriend, when she dies, it's very difficult to be reborn, because she died this way. Oh my God, she keeps following me, it's not good, it's not okay. Is there any way? This question formed, and his journey to seek knowledge began. Seeking knowledge here meant that he wanted to learn more about Buddhism, about ethical principles, as well as about reincarnation after death. Although he had previously studied with his master, that path was Mao Shan Taoism, specializing in spells and healing spiritual illnesses, not inclined towards Buddhism, about how to practice correctly. Now he was leaning towards Buddhism. As for studying with Master Lo Ban according to Buddhism, that was separate, he didn't touch on it. Besides, he also suggested a way for him, which was to let the spirit of his girlfriend become an Amben. He didn't want to. Okay. He didn't mention it to him anymore. He went to find other monks in the temple. Starting from this point, wherever his friends were, near or far, if they knew any monks who were enlightened and virtuous, they would tell him, and he would be willing to ask for help. A monk at a temple in District 12 helped him see his roots. The monk said that his ex-girlfriend was still following him and clinging to him very closely. It's not that she wants to harm him. First of all, she still loves him, and second, it's very difficult for her to leave. Now he should see if there is any way to help her be reincarnated. He had already sent her photo to the temple, so why was she still following him? There must be a reason. So he continued to ask other monks for help. Then he was fortunate to have a friend introduce him to a monk, a senior monk at a temple in Long and really, the first time he came to this temple, he felt very sorry. He said, "Why are there so many big, beautiful temples, and then there are temples like this, as if there wasn't enough funding to cover the facilities?" However, in this temple there was a senior monk who, after he came into contact with, he learned was also a very skilled Lo Ban master. He also presented his problem: "I want my girlfriend to be reincarnated, because my girlfriend accidentally did that foolish thing. I want her to go peacefully, don't follow me anymore. It's not that I'm afraid, but I just want to care for my girlfriend's soul." The monk completely agreed and accepted his request. He said, "This is very easy, don't worry, I can do everything. After I do it, your girlfriend's soul will be reincarnated immediately, without any more sins." In general, he painted a very beautiful and perfect scene for him, so he trusted him very much, putting all his faith in this monk. However, everything has its price, and this favor also had a price. And what was the price? All the items he bought to offer as offerings here could do it. The first thing he did at this temple was to take a third of his savings and put it in the donation box right at the temple. Here, there was a call for charity, and he also supported it, calling on relatives and friends to put money in the donation box, the purpose being to organize a Buddha's birthday ceremony at the temple that year. Then, on the day of Buddha's birthday, they would distribute charity gifts to the poor people who came to the ceremony, and also rebuild the foundation of this temple, because the temple was in danger of collapsing and did not have sufficient facilities. He was very active, because he thought that by doing so he would dedicate the merits he had cultivated to the souls of the deceased. He begged in all directions, in every way, as if asking the priest to take care of it, how to dedicate it, to organize a requiem mass so that his girlfriend's soul could be reborn in the Pure Land. The monk also nodded, telling him to try to take care of it, just put the money in to do good deeds. It sounded good, but after the Buddha's birthday ceremony at the temple, he didn't see any movement, and the monk didn't mention anything. He only said that if he was sincere, he would have to spend more money, buy some robes or something, he wasn't sure. Raven also didn't know what robes were. At that time, he was also confused. He then sent a picture to his master, and his master said that those robes cost from 10 million to tens of millions of dong a set. But what to buy them for? He didn't know either. At that time, he suddenly had the idea, or were people taking advantage of him? But okay, don't blame people yet. It must be because of him. He brought too many benefits, causing people to lose their purity. He didn't dare to judge anyone either. He never mentioned that matter. Then he quietly withdrew, not daring to ask anyone for help anymore. Too sad, he didn't know where to go, who to turn to. He had a master but didn't dare to say anything. He went home, knelt before the ancestral altar, begging his ancestors for help. He was out of options. Therefore, that morning, before going to work, he went to the Buddha altar in his house, burned incense, cried, knelt down, and repented for the things he had done, feeling that he was too wrong. He prayed, "Buddha, I don't know how to help the one I love be reincarnated. She keeps following me. I feel too guilty. When will she be liberated? If this continues, she will be condemned to hell. It's too pitiful, Buddha." Then he just burned incense and prayed. He had just turned to step out of the house to go to work when he suddenly heard in his head, not someone speaking, a clear voice saying, "Anamwajia di lo ta nang mahamau nira, anamwajia di lo ta nang mahamau nira, anamwajia di lo ta nang mahamau nira." The mantra kept repeating in his head exactly 3 times and then stopped. He thought to himself, what a strange mantra. He quickly took out paper and pen to write it down, afraid of forgetting it, and he still remembers it to this day. So, going to work, he kept the mantra with him, searching the internet, looking through scriptures, looking to see which sutra it was in, which mantra, but it was so strange. Finally, he found it. This mantra was in a technique, also a mystical technique, called the Tan Sa technique. He only knew that. To practice this technique, it must be associated with this mantra, but he didn't know the purpose of the Tan Sa technique. The first person he asked was his master. He explained to him like this: this mantra is called the Tan Sa Then Chu Tai Lo Jia Na Fat Quang Chuan Dan Chan Gon, also like the 6-syllable great bright mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. Whenever we are frightened or attacked by demons, we can recite it to create an aura to dispel evil spirits around us. But this Tan Sa Then Chu has a different purpose. What is Tan Sa? Tan means to spread, Sa means sand, meaning we spread sand. In a very old series of stories, Raven once mentioned this Tan Sa technique, but this story mentions it in more detail. And we spread not ordinary sand. This sand must be extremely clean, preferably sand from the bottom of the river or the sea, to be effective. The master only said it roughly like that, and the specifics will be clear later. The master said to take the sand and make it really clean as possible, then chant this mantra 108 times, like the Great Compassion Mantra. After chanting the mantra, take the sand and sprinkle it on the body of the newly deceased, or on their grave. These people are usually those who died unjustly, died resentfully, or destroyed themselves. We know that later these people will definitely be condemned to hell, like living in the world with sins and faults. Then we sprinkle it on their body, thanks to the power of the mantra that we have dedicated. We help them, sprinkle it on them so that after they die, their sins are reduced. It's like giving them a part to go to the Western Pure Land, but you can't erase all the sins, because each person must bear their own karma. We, the living, only support a part, but it's better to have something than nothing. Just do it. Help your ex-girlfriend as much as you can. According to the Tantric view, chanting this mantra has many effects, such as protecting yourself, or when you want to treat someone's pain, you can rub the painful area and chant the mantra. You can also chant the mantra on the clothes of the dead, so that they can take them with them to reduce some of their sins, helping them. Back to his conversation with the master. The master spoke eloquently, explaining to him what the Tan Sa technique was. However, the master didn't force him, saying that if he wanted to, he could practice it, take the sand home and try it to see if it would succeed. As for himself, he wouldn't help with this matter, because he didn't believe it. It was okay if he didn't help, as long as he let him understand what Tan Sa was. If there was anything, he would go home and do it himself. During this time, he was only groping alone, with no one to accompany him. He didn't know why. He just stayed home learning about the Tan Sa technique, but he didn't dare to do it yet. Coincidentally, there was another affinity. Probably in one of his times of doing charity or helping someone, he didn't remember clearly. He met a senior monk who is now a great monk at a temple in Vinh Long. At that time, his senior monk went to help poor people. He also participated, so the two of them met. After that, the two senior brothers texted back and forth. He also wanted to learn about Buddhism. In France, people would be happy for you, too. Then, I got straight to the point, explaining my situation and asking for help so that my ex-girlfriend's soul could be liberated, since I had foolishly done something wrong. Because my spiritual brother practices Buddhism, no matter who I asked, they would all say the same thing. To reduce the soul's sins, you have to perform a Tre Dan Chante ritual. Anyone who practices will surely know what a Tre Dan Chante is. But each Tre Dan Chante ceremony costs a lot of money, a whole lot. Often, many families gather together and hold a large ceremony, with many monks coming to pray for their liberation. Everyone can search online to learn more about it. It's a proper and official Buddhist ritual. I also researched and learned that holding a Tre Dan Chante ceremony is not cheap at all. Meanwhile, I had already spent a lot of money. First, I spent money to renovate the temple in Longan, as Raven just mentioned. That cost a pretty penny too, but I considered it an act of merit, so I didn't count it. Second, I traveled back and forth from Saigon, taking trains, buses, and planes all the way to my ex-girlfriend's house in Ninh Thuan. I had to take care of the 49-day and 100-day ceremonies, because on the 100th day, the tombstone outside had already deteriorated. I don't know where they made the tombstone, but in less than 3 months, the name had faded. I had to spend money to order a new one, to make it look nice again. I also had to pay for expenses, because her family in the countryside was having a hard time and didn't have much to spare. They were very grateful for my help. It cost way too much money. So, I shared honestly, brother, I don't have much money left now. Do you have any other way? Understanding my situation, my spiritual brother made a decision that I will never forget, and I am grateful to this day. My spiritual brother said, well, if there's no other way, we'll do it differently. I will go to this person's hometown, to the burial place, and I will perform a liberation ceremony for them. After doing that, it can help them. The important thing is for you not to worry about anything, no need to spend any money on offerings. Oh my God, I was so grateful. When people help us, we can't offend them, and we can't let them suffer any losses. I offered to buy train and bus tickets, book hotels, and take care of everything for my spiritual brother. It was so reasonable and considerate. My spiritual brother agreed. But there was one thing my spiritual brother absolutely forbade me from doing, and that was, you absolutely must not go home and perform the Tan Sa ritual yourself. Because before that, I had explained and asked about the Tan Sa ritual, and my spiritual brother had shown me how to do it, but forbade me from doing it myself. Do you know why? Everything in this world has its price. Practicing the forbidden Tan Sa ritual is very dangerous for yourself. When you do it and sprinkle it on the graves of the dead, you have to bear a very heavy karma. My spiritual brother only said that, and I didn't research further what that karma was. At that time, I was also quite arrogant, thinking to myself, well, now my spiritual brother is helping me by performing the liberation ceremony. As for me, I will do it in parallel with my spiritual brother. I will secretly do it at home, practicing the Tan Sa ritual. It's not like some evil sorcerer is teaching me this technique. I learned it once when I accidentally burned incense at the Buddha altar. Maybe after many years of studying, the gods and Buddhas understand and witness my intentions, and they led me to know about this Tan Sa ritual. I'll just do it, surely nothing will happen. And then I decided to secretly do it at home. From the day I explained the matter to my spiritual brother, he scheduled to go out there a month later to perform the liberation ceremony, but remember what I told you, don't do it at home. As for me, I knew there was still a month left, while this Tan Sa ritual could be practiced within a month. The important thing now was where to find sand. The sand had to be sand from the bottom of the river, and it had to be clean. Where could I find it? Suddenly, I don't know how, I was driving on the road, passing by some aquarium shops, and I stopped because I saw that they were selling sea sand for decorating aquariums. I thought, This sand must be better than river sand, because the ocean doesn't have as much dirt as our rivers. Well, as long as it's sand, it's fine, because the important thing is how I chant the mantra, whether I chant enough times, whether I do it the right way. As for the nature of the sand is sand no matter where it comes from. This is also sea sand. Just buy it. I did it very carefully, making it absolutely clean. After buying it, the sand was bright white. I poured it out and washed it with clean water first, using 3 sieves to wash away all the dirt. After washing it 4 or 5 times, I put it on to boil in boiling water. After boiling the water, I poured it out and washed it again with clean water. This time, I used a different sieve to filter out the gravel. After removing the gravel, I washed it again and put it in the sun to dry for a whole day. After drying it, I put it in a very hot, dry pan and roasted it. Oh my God, I tell you, when the sand is roasted, it gets incredibly hot. The way people roast coffee beans, it's extremely hot, radiating heat very strongly, making everything hot. After everything was done, I sifted it one last time, and I got a very fine, very white sand. After that, I mixed it according to the ratio of about 1 rice bowl of sand to 1 spoonful of cinnabar ink. I bought this ink from a traditional Chinese medicine store. I mixed it all together and put it in a porcelain jar, which I also bought on the same day I bought the sand. I was just following invisible instructions, not knowing if there would be any results or not. And then the 25-day process of practicing the Tan Sa ritual began. That night, I went up to my family's Buddha altar, put the jar of sand right on the altar, lit incense, and rang the bell, but very gently, because my parents were still in the house, and I wasn't living alone. I was afraid of waking everyone up. My right hand made the auspicious seal, my left hand made the protective seal. I looked straight at the jar of sand, and recited the mantra. Actually, the mantra I heard in my head when I turned my back to the altar was only the first sentence of this mantra. If anyone wants to find out, Raven will put it in the comments section. I recited it 108 times. For the first 3 nights, I did it right at the Buddha altar outside. But on the following nights, I brought it into my room, secretly doing it. Every time I did it, I was in a meditative posture, sitting in meditation. In particular, every time I did that, I had to turn on a dim light in the house, and it had to have a yellow tint. I couldn't turn on the light too bright, because only this light would help me focus and know what was happening around me while I was reciting the mantra. Every day after finishing, I would open the jar of sand to see if there were any signs of change, but I didn't see anything. Until the 21st day, doing it regularly, every day the same. Oh my God, that day after finishing, I opened it and saw that the jar of sand was no longer as pure white as sea sand, but had turned pinkish, and it had the pungent smell of cinnabar ink. There was no smell when I mixed it, but now there was. It was very strange. So, I knew for sure that there was some reaction, that my recitations had seeped into it. I was very determined. Oh my God, I tell you, believe it or not, when I went in, everyone asked, "Hey, are you sick? Why do you look so scary? Your eyes are so sunken, your skin is so dark, you look so haggard. Are you sick, Mom? Go get checked out." I just smiled and said yes. But I knew it was sucking a lot of my energy into it. I was also very excited. I thought, oh my God, this time I can help my friend. Until I got back to my room and couldn't find the jar of sand. I asked my dad, "Dad, did you see the jar in my room?" My dad scolded me, "What are you doing putting all that sand in the room? Are you crazy? I went in to clean your room, I broke it, I used a dustpan to sweep it up, and I threw it away. Don't put all that junk in the room anymore, okay? What are you doing bringing sand into the house? Is that so?" He scolded me as if he was going crazy, exploding with anger. Oh my God, my hard work of nearly 30 days, reciting mantras into it, how much of the results are left now? All gone down the drain. But how could I be angry with my dad? How could I scold him? I sat down and calmed myself down, and then I said, "Is it possible that this is a calamity that I have to go through? Well, no matter what, I have to do it again, because I only have 3 or 4 days left until the day of the ceremony with my spiritual brother in Ninh Thuan. What to do now? I immediately went to buy sand. I did it again. I recited it for 3 days and 3 nights, and I was so determined that I said, even if there's only 1 day left, I still have to do it, whatever happens. Finally, I did it. I made a new jar. Listen, on the 4th day, starting from the morning of the next day, I was preparing to leave, but I hid it carefully. I didn't dare to say anything. That last night, before I finished packing my things in the jar to go to Ninh Thuan, I felt that outside the window of my room, my girlfriend was standing outside, standing there staring in. At the moment when I was practicing, when I turned my face out, the two of us faced each other. I clearly saw the joy in her eyes. It was like she was happy that I had helped her. And then she disappeared. She wasn't next to me anymore. Listen, so even though it had only been 3 days, I felt that maybe this tan saw of mine was working. I had to take it out there. That's why when I brought the jar of sand out there, I was so excited. I tell you, oh my God, this time I can definitely liberate her. So, my spiritual brother and I worked together to perform a liberation ceremony, and this tan saw ritual of mine. First in the house, my spiritual brother recited the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra, and I also recited along, to dedicate it to the soul of this person. After everything was done, we moved out to the yard. At this time, there was a small tent, so that we could offer the food, but it was only a little food, not much at all, for the souls to eat, so that they wouldn't be hungry. Outside this altar, there was a statue of the Chu Dying Dai Si. Everyone who goes to the temple will often see it. It's in the picture, and there were also 6 gates of hell. My spiritual brother also asked me to have them made, just to have the form of it. After doing the ceremony in the yard, we started moving out to the cemetery area. The two of us also performed offerings together outside. But when my spiritual brother went into the house, I secretly sprinkled this sand on the grave, and sprinkled it around the grave like this. I walked around the grave 3 times. Each time I went around, I would recite the Vairocana crown mantra once, reciting and sprinkling at the same time. Leaving a part of the remaining sand, I drew a character, a Chinese character. This character I drew on the top of the grave, the back of the grave. It was very strange. When I had just finished drawing that character with the sand, I saw right there at the grave, in the ground, there was a beam of light, like someone was shining a light from below, along with a stream of slightly red gas that was faint. It was hazy. It rose up and disappeared. It only lasted for a few seconds. That's it. This ceremony was done smoothly without anyone knowing. Everyone just said what they wanted. After that night, when I got home, I still saw my girlfriend's soul as usual, exactly the same. She still came, still walked in my dreams, going out to play. I knew she came, even lying next to me. But only that one day, until the first anniversary of her death the following year. That day I met her again. This time when I met her, the two of us were also like we were preparing to part ways. She said goodbye to me, but I didn't hear. I only understood that, I'm going far away. I won't meet you anywhere anymore. Something like that, and then she left. After that time, I didn't see her anymore. So, I came to the conclusion that when we love someone, it's not necessary to be by their side every day. It's not like that. When we love someone, we liberate them. That is the ultimate form of love. There's one thing I haven't said, and that is the jar that I used to hold the sand. After I sprinkled the sand on the grave, I brought it back home. I thought it was normal, but every night when I was sleeping, I would hear the jar shake, making clattering noises, like someone or something was inside it causing trouble. I said, why is it so strange, so strange? What is it? Or is it because I'm trapping souls? No way. Oh my God. And I didn't dare to ask my spiritual brother, because the more I asked, the more I would reveal the secret. I also took some of my talismans to suppress it, but it still didn't stop. It was still causing trouble all the time. I couldn't sleep, even though it wasn't ghosts or demons disturbing me. But later I came to a conclusion. I remembered the words of my master, of my spiritual brother, that I shouldn't do this technique because nothing in this world is free. My spiritual brother said that practicing this technique is very dangerous. It's dangerous for the person practicing it. From the time they are alive until they die, it's still dangerous. The reason is why? It's because when we want to dedicate our merit by reciting mantras into this jar of sand, we sprinkle it on the grave, right? That means we want to take our merits to reduce the sins of the dead, their resentment. After the dead's resentment has been reduced, they no longer have resentment, so does this resentment disappear? It doesn't disappear, it will continue to be transferred to the person who created this mantra. It doesn't disappear. If it disappears, then why don't we just do wrong to the fullest extent, harm people, and then after we die, we ask the people living on this earth to create this mantra to help us? That's not Buddhism anymore, right? It has to have a price. In short, when I brought this jar back, it was full of karma, full of resentment. If I continued to keep it in my room, it would affect my body, making me weak and thin, even to the point of death. After death, I would bear the karma that I caused when I was alive, and if there was any, I would also bear the karma that I had helped this person with. So, is this a very dangerous practice? So, after I pondered and thought about all these things, I thought maybe I was wrong. But never mind, I love this person too much. If I'm wrong, if doing this once helps them to reduce their sins, helps them to be liberated, then maybe I'll just accept it. What if it doesn't work out? So, I took this jar, I went to the Munoi Pagoda in Go Vap district, a pagoda that floats on the river. It's very beautiful. So, I went there, I took a boat or something, I went out to the middle of the river. I released it. When I released it, I prayed to the Earth Store Bodhisattva to guide all the wandering souls in this world, as well as the karmic forces and resentment in this jar, to guide them all away. This jar was completely sealed shut. Yet I don't understand why when I dropped it into the river, it didn't drift away with the current, but it sucked down and disappeared with a splash. Strange. It's not like it was a piece of iron or something. The jar was completely empty. And these are all my experiences with this forbidden Tan Sa ritual. I really want to share it with everyone so that everyone knows and understands. In general, I don't want everyone to follow this practice. Don't be like me, because it's quite dangerous. Through this story, we can see that there are quite a few ways for people who have died in that way to be liberated. For example, we can recite sutras and mantras to dedicate to them, as well as ask virtuous monks to organize food offering ceremonies, but we shouldn't do these practices. It will affect ourselves a lot. Because the karma, the merit, the sin of each person living in this world, when they go down below, they will have to pay exactly as much as they have done. It's difficult for anyone to bear the burden for anyone else. We have to pay the price for all our actions ourselves. If anything, we can only help to some extent. And there's a very good saying, and that is, when we love someone, it's not necessary for us to be by their side, but we have to liberate them, so that they can leave. Then our love becomes noble. Their story and our story ends here. Before ending this story, everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel to receive the latest ghost stories. If you find this story good, you can leave a comment below for everyone to know. And now, let's wait for the next episode. Dewey says goodbye to everyone. Wow, that's chilling to hear. He scolded me something fierce, like he was about to lose it completely, just totally furious. Man, all the heart and soul I poured into that, nearly a whole month I spent on it, wholeheartedly chanting those mantras, and now it's all for nothing. Gone down the river, vanished without a trace. But what could I do? I couldn't get mad at my dad, couldn't possibly yell at him. So, I just sat down, tried to calm myself, thinking, maybe this is just a trial I have to go through. Well, whatever happens, I have to try and start all over again, because there are only 3 or 4 days left until the ceremony with my spiritual brother in Ninh Thuan. So, what to do? I immediately went out and bought more sand, and started working on it right away. I poured my heart and soul into chanting for 3 days and 3 nights, so determined that I told myself, even if there's only 1 day left, I have to get it done, come what may. Finally, I managed to finish it, made a new jar. By the 4th day, early the next morning, I was getting ready to leave. He left, keeping everything bottled up, not daring to utter another word. That last night, before he packed his belongings along with the jar to head to Ninh Thuan, he suddenly felt someone standing right outside his window, looking in. When he was practicing, facing the window, their eyes met, and he clearly saw a look of joy in their eyes. It was as if they were rejoicing because he had helped them. Then, they vanished, no longer by his side. Reflecting on it, even though it had only been 3 days, he felt that perhaps his sand scattering technique had already worked and needed to be taken out there. Therefore, when he managed to bring the jar of sand to the location, he was extremely excited. He thought to himself that he would definitely be able to free them this time. His senior brother and he joined forces to conduct the ritual to resolve the injustice and sever the ties. The first time performing this sand-scattering technique indoors, his senior brother recited scriptures, specifically the Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra, and he also sincerely recited along, dedicating the merit to the deceased spirit. After everything was completed, they both moved to the yard. At this time, a small tent had been set up, displaying offerings for a food offering ceremony, just a little bit of food, nothing much, for the wandering spirits to have something to eat and alleviate their hunger. On the altar, there was a statue of the flaming-faced Great Master, which people who visit temples often see, and also 6 gates of hell, which his senior brother had instructed to be made, to add to the solemnity. After performing the ritual in the yard, they both began to move to the cemetery area. They both performed offerings together there. When his senior brother went inside, he secretly scattered sand on the grave, scattering it around the grave. He walked around the grave 3 times. Each time, he walked while reciting the Vairocana consecration mantra. He recited and scattered sand. Leaving some sand behind, he used it to draw a character, a Chinese character, on the top of the grave, right on the back of the grave. Something strange happened. As soon as he finished drawing the character with sand, he immediately saw a beam of light flashing from the ground at the grave, as if someone was shining a light from below, accompanied by a faint red aura, hazy, rising up and disappearing in just a few short seconds. That was it. The ceremony went smoothly, without anyone knowing. Everyone kept it a secret. After that night, he still often met the spirit of his lover in his dreams. Everything was still the same, they still went out together. He knew they were still coming back, even lying next to him. But only on the 1st anniversary of their death the following year did he meet them again. This time they met, it felt like they were about to part ways. They said goodbye to him, but he didn't understand clearly, only vaguely sensed that they were about to leave, that he would not see them again. Then they left for good. Since then, he hasn't seen them again. From then on, he realized something: when you love someone, it's not necessary to always be by their side, all the time. But true love is freeing them, that's love to the end. There's one more thing he hasn't told, which is about the jar of sand. After scattering the sand on the grave, he brought the jar home. He thought everything was normal, but every night he slept, he heard the jar shaking, rattling constantly, as if someone or something inside was causing trouble. He wondered, why is that? What's going on? Could it be that he had trapped a spirit inside? It couldn't be. He didn't dare ask his senior brother, afraid that asking would reveal the secret even more. He used talismans to suppress it, but it was still no use. It kept causing trouble, making it impossible for him to sleep peacefully, even though no ghosts or demons were disturbing him. Later, he realized something. He remembered his master's words, his senior brother's instructions, not to use this technique carelessly, because nothing in this world is free. His senior brother had said that practicing this technique is very dangerous. Dangerous for the practitioner, from when they are alive until they die. Why is that? Because when you want to dedicate merit, chant mantras into the jar of sand, and then scatter it on the grave, it means you want to use your merit to reduce the sin and resentment of the deceased. But when the resentment of the deceased has been reduced, and there is no more resentment, does that resentment disappear? No, it will transfer to the person who chanted the mantra, not disappear at all. If it disappeared, then wouldn't everyone just do bad things and harm others, and then after death, have the living chant mantras to help them? What would be left of Buddhist law then? Everything must have its price. In short, when he brought that jar home, it was full of karmic force, full of resentment. If he kept it in his room, it would affect his body, making him weak, emaciated, even die. After death, he would have to bear the karmic retribution for the things he did when he was alive, and possibly even bear the karmic retribution that he helped the deceased pay off. Isn't this a very dangerous thing? So, after thinking carefully, he realized he might have been wrong. But oh well, he loved them too much. If this wrongful act could help them suffer less, be liberated, then he would accept it. What else could he do? So, he took that jar to the floating temple in Govap, a beautiful temple floating on the river. He hired a boat, went to the middle of the river, and then dropped the jar down, praying to Earth Store Bodhisattva to guide all the wandering spirits in the world, as well as the karmic forces and resentment in the jar, asking to be guided all. The jar had been completely sealed. Yet, for some reason, when dropped into the river, it didn't float with the current, but sank immediately. Strange. If it were a lump of iron, it wouldn't be surprising, but the jar was completely empty. And that was all his experience with this forbidden sand scattering technique. He wanted to share it so that everyone could understand it better. In general, he doesn't encourage everyone to do it this way. Don't let yourself get into a situation like him, it's very dangerous. Through this story, we see that people who die unjustly have many ways to be liberated, such as reciting scriptures, chanting mantras to dedicate merit, or having virtuous monks organize food offering ceremonies. Don't take matters into your own hands like this, it will greatly affect yourself. The karmic force and merits of each person living in this world, when going to the underworld, must be borne by themselves, no one can bear it for them. You must pay the price for all your actions yourself. If anything, you can only help a little. There's a very good saying, when you love someone, it's not necessary to be by their side, but to free them, to let them leave in peace, that is noble love. His story and our story come to a close here. Before ending, don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel to watch the latest ghost stories. If you find this story good, please leave a comment so everyone knows. And now, please wait for the next episode. Dewey says goodbye to everyone. He left, keeping everything bottled up inside, not daring to breathe a word about it to anyone. On that final night, right before he gathered his belongings and that peculiar jar to venture out to Ninh Thuan, he got the distinct impression that someone was standing just outside his bedroom window, peering in at him. As he was practicing, turned in that direction, their eyes locked, and he clearly registered a look of sheer joy radiating from their gaze. It was almost as if they were celebrating because he'd managed to help them out. Then, as quickly as they appeared, they vanished, no longer present by his side. Pondering it all, even though it had only been a mere 3 days, he had a strong gut feeling that his sand scattering technique had already kicked in and that it needed to be taken out there to its intended purpose. So, when he finally managed to transport that weighty jar of sand to the right location, he felt an overwhelming sense of excitement. He silently affirmed to himself that he'd absolutely be able to set them free from whatever was binding them this time around. His senior monk and he, the two of them joining forces, to conduct a ritual designed to resolve any injustices and sever the lingering ties. During the very first time he'd ever performed this specific sand scattering technique indoors, his senior brother had reverently recited sacred scriptures, specifically the profoundly significant Earth Store Bodhisattva Sutra. And he, too, with heartfelt sincerity, had chanted along, directing the accumulated merits toward the spirit of the departed soul. Once all of the required procedures had been faithfully completed, both of them relocated to the yard area. At this point, a quaint little tent had already been erected, carefully displaying ceremonial offerings in preparation for a food offering ceremony, just a small selection of edibles. Nothing particularly extravagant, intended to provide some sustenance for the restless wandering spirits and to alleviate their gnawing hunger. Positioned reverently on the altar, there was a statue of the flaming-faced Great Master, a familiar sight to anyone who regularly visits temples. And, adding to the solemnity of the occasion, 6 imposing gates of hell, meticulously crafted and installed at the explicit instruction of his senior brother. After ceremonially performing the ritual observances in the yard, both of them started to make their way toward the cemetery grounds, and together, they proceeded to carry out the appropriate offerings there. After his senior brother had gone back inside, he furtively began scattering the sacred sand on the grave site, distributing it carefully around the perimeter of the tomb. He ritually circled the grave a total of 3 times. Each time he carefully circled the site, he continued to recite the powerful Vairocana consecration mantra, scattering the sand as he chanted. Leaving a small portion of the special sand behind, he deliberately used it to trace a character, a traditional Chinese character, right on the uppermost surface of the grave, directly on the back of the tombstone. As soon as he finished drawing the character with the consecrated sand, he immediately witnessed a sudden and inexplicable beam of light flashing upward from the ground at the gravesite, just as if someone was shining a bright light from directly below. It was accompanied by a hazy, faint red aura, swirling upward and then abruptly disappearing within mere seconds. And with that, it was done. The solemn ceremony had proceeded without a hitch, unnoticed by anyone who wasn't directly involved. Everyone present maintained complete discretion about the matter. After that eventful night, he found that he was still frequently encountering the spectral image of his beloved in his dreams. Everything seemed to continue on as before, with them still going out together. He was well aware that she was still returning to him, even going so far as to lie intimately next to him in his bed. However, it wasn't until the very first anniversary of her tragic passing the following year that he would encounter her spirit once again. Upon this particular reunion, it felt as though they were agonizingly on the cusp of a permanent separation. She solemnly bid him farewell, but he was unable to grasp the full depth of her meaning, only vaguely sensing that she was on the verge of leaving, that he wouldn't be seeing her again. And then, ultimately, she was gone, presumably for good. Since that point, he hasn't experienced any further visitations from her spirit. Starting then, he came to a major life revelation. He now believes that, when you truly love someone, it's not necessarily essential to always be physically present with them, to be continually at their side. Instead, genuine, profound love involves setting them free. That, in his opinion, is the most ultimate and complete expression of love. There's one more important piece of this narrative he hasn't yet shared, which is concerning the mysterious jar of sand. After finishing the act of scattering the sacred sand on the grave site, he brought the peculiar jar home with him. He initially assumed that everything was perfectly normal, but every single night that he attempted to sleep, he'd be plagued by the unsettling sound of the jar shaking and rattling continuously, as if some entity or creature was inside it, maliciously stirring up trouble. He couldn't help but wonder, why is this happening? What's going on? He wondered if he had somehow inadvertently trapped a spirit within the jar. Surely that couldn't be. He didn't dare to ask his senior monk about it, worried that asking would give away the secret, so he attempted to use talismans to suppress whatever was causing the disturbance, but all his efforts proved to be in vain. Whatever was causing the ruckus just kept on going, keeping him in a state of constant unease and preventing him from getting a restful night's sleep, despite the fact that no visible ghosts or demons were directly harassing him. Later on, he had a significant realization. He suddenly remembered what his master had taught him, and the instructions his senior monk had impressed upon him, never to employ this particular technique carelessly, because nothing in existence comes without a hidden cost. His senior monk had previously cautioned him that practicing this specific technique was incredibly perilous, and posed a significant threat to the person practicing it, from their time on Earth and all the way into the afterlife. Why was this? Because when you purposefully desire to dedicate merit, to chant consecrated mantras into a jar of sand, and then ritually scatter the sand upon a gravesite, what you are effectively doing is intentionally leveraging your own personal merit to diminish the sins and deeply ingrained resentment of the deceased individual. However, once the deceased's bitterness and anger have been diminished, and there is no longer any pent-up resentment, does that negativity simply evaporate? No. The residual anger and pain get transferred to the person who actually chanted the protective mantras, rather than vanishing into thin air. After all, if all the resentment just magically disappeared, wouldn't it essentially give everyone free rein to commit despicable acts and inflict harm on others, only to subsequently have living people chant protective mantras to help alleviate the consequences? What would be left of the essential principles of Buddhist law in that case? The fundamental takeaway is that everything in life requires a sacrifice. So, in simple terms, when he'd brought that troubling jar back to his home, it was saturated with negative karmic energy and overflowing with lingering resentment. If he had continued to keep it inside his living space, it would have exerted a damaging impact on his physical health, slowly but surely sapping his strength, causing him to become frail, and even potentially leading to his eventual demise. After death, he would be held responsible for the harmful actions he'd committed during his own lifetime, and it was even possible that he would also be forced to answer for the karmic retribution he had assisted the departed soul in alleviating. Wouldn't that all add up to be an incredibly dangerous undertaking? As a result, after some careful consideration, he came to the unsettling recognition that he may have made a grave error in judgment. But then, he thought, he had loved her so much. He reasoned that if this transgression could help alleviate her pain and allow her to finally be liberated, then he would just have to resign himself to it and accept the consequences. What else could he possibly have done? So, he took that ominous jar out to the floating temple in Govap, a stunning temple floating on the river. He then hired a small boat to take him to the center of the river and lowered the troubling jar into the water, praying to the earth store Bodhisattva to guide all the restless wandering souls throughout the world, along with all the residual karmic energies and lingering resentments contained within the jar, humbly requesting to have it all guided appropriately. The jar had been carefully sealed beforehand. Yet, surprisingly, when it was released into the river, rather than drifting away with the current, it immediately plunged directly down to the bottom. How incredibly bizarre. If it had been a solid block of iron, it wouldn't have been so unexpected, but the jar was completely empty. And that essentially sums up his personal experience with the forbidden sand scattering technique. He felt driven to share his story and provide a clear understanding of the profound dangers involved. Generally speaking, he does not recommend that anyone attempt to replicate his actions, and he strongly advises others to avoid finding themselves in a comparable situation. It is far too risky. Through hearing his story, we see that individuals who meet with unjust deaths can potentially find release through various means, such as reverently reciting scriptures, diligently chanting protective mantras to dedicate merit, or seeking out the services of virtuous monks to organize a proper food offering ceremony. It is never advisable to take matters into one's own hands and attempt to perform such practices independently, as it can potentially have a devastating impact on one's own well-being. Each individual living on this earth carries their own karmic burden, and when they eventually pass away, they must face the consequences of their actions alone. No one else can bear that weight for them. Everyone will eventually have to pay the price for their own transgressions. If any assistance is possible at all, it can only ever provide a limited degree of relief. And there's a very profound saying, when you truly love someone, it's not always essential to be constantly at their side. Instead, the highest expression of love is to set them free, allowing them to pass on in peace. And with that, his story, and the collective tale of us all, comes to a close here. Before signing off, remember to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for the newest installments of spooky ghost stories. If you enjoyed this story, please don't hesitate to leave a comment and share your thoughts with other listeners. And now, stay tuned and get ready to hear the next spine-chilling episode. Dewey says goodbye to all of you.